Sisters and brothers of Africa, listen to me. Well, tonight, I do not come to whisper speaking. I come to thunder at the betrayal that we see in South Africa. Watch this video all the way to the end. If you love me, you will see the truth. The man sitting in the top office while his people are dying of despair. Cyril Ramaphosa. Yes, I will say his name. I will not be intimidated by it because silence in face of betrayal is complicity. And I, Ibrahim Traoré, will never be complicit in the destruction of Africa by her own sons who chose to serve foreign masters instead of their people. Ramaphosa has become a living witness to what happens when the freedom movement loses its soul, when the visions of freedom are exchanged for deals with foreign companies, when the spirit of Mandela, Bo, and Chris Hani is sold for silver coins. The ANC that was once a symbol of African struggle now bends on its knees like a beggar, and Ramaphosa is the face of the shame. Look at South Africa today. Do you see prosperity? Do you see liberation? No. You see the fall of power, of jobs, of dignity. The youth, black youth, the very children for whom blood was spilled in Soweto walk the streets unemployed, forgotten, disrespected. While Ramaphosa smiles before cameras in Europe, shaking hands with those men who still exploit Africa's minerals, its land, its people. Is this the freedom South Africa struggled to achieve? Is this the fate of the great ANC? No, it is betrayal at the highest level. Ramaphosa, you sit in the office as if you are a chief executive of a Western company, not as a leader of a proud African nation. You have transformed the ANC into a corporation of corruption, a market where power is bought and sold. SM lies in ruins, the light goes out, and South Africans starve in the dark while you accumulate riches. Millions are out of work, desperate. And yet you speak of billions made in your own business. You rest at night or where your people go hungry. You smile, with that smile, as mothers bury sons because of crime, because of poverty, because of unemployment. Do not speak of reconciliation when there is justice. Never come. Do not talk of progress when townships rot. Do not talk of democracy when corruption kills your institutions. You are a businessman first, Ramaphosa, and that is your jinx. You use South Africa as your farm, the ANC as your business, and the people as cheap labor. You forgot to remember the struggle. You forgot that freedom is not for sale. I say this with passion in my chest. The ANC under Ramaphosa is dead. It is a walking corpse. Where it was a sword against apartheid, now it is a spoon feeding foreign interests. Where it was once the voice of the oppressed, now it is the language of the oppressor. South Africa needed a revolution of minds and of economy, but Ramaphosa gave them trickery, speeches, and promises. He stands not as a liberator but as a gatekeeper for imperialism. You tell the world that you are building a rainbow country. But what rainbow is this when black South Africans still suffer in the mines and slave conditions? When their land is still robbed from them? When their dignity is ridden roughshod? What rainbow is this when the white minority still holds the keys to the economy while the black majority is roped to poverty? Do you not see, Ramaphosa, that you are nothing but the friendly smile for the ugly face of neocolonialism? South Africa could have been the economic dynamo of Africa. It ought to have shot up high and lifted the continent with its wealth. But under you, Ramaphosa, it collapses. It sinks. Foreigners take your gold, your diamonds, your platinum, your land. While you beg them for investment, do you not notice the shame? Instead of Building Africa's pride, you beg the West. You beg for loans. You bow yourself down for approval. And to the youth of South Africa, I say, do not be fooled by this man's speeches. He is not your father. He is your betrayer. Rise up, demand. Turn against such a leadership that sees you as indispensable. Ramaphosa is intimidated by the flame of young Africans unwilling to accept scraps. It is for this reason that he presents you with words while he pockets his friends. It is for this reason that the ANC clings to power by fear, fragmentation, and corruption. They are scared of the day you will complain loudly enough. Ramaphosa, listen to me now. Africa cannot stomach weak leaders. We don't need servants of the West. We don't need smiling faces hiding corruption. We don't need cowards bending the knee when they should stand tall. You are a coward. Yes, I used the word. A coward who was afraid to ignite the true revolution. Afraid to ruffle the white masters who were afraid to reclaim the land and the economy for your people. You chose comfort instead. You chose compromise. Betrayal. You will not be among the giants when your history is written about Africa. You will not be a liberator remembered. You will be remembered as a man who inherited the struggle and squandered it. A man who carried the torch of freedom only to extinguish it for money. A man who prefers to serve capital at the expense of justice. Do you not feel shame, Ramaphosa, when you walk in Mandela's path but drag the strings of corruption behind you? Do not listen to the cries of the martyrs calling out against your betrayal? Chris Hani, who gave his life for the people, would he see this ANC of yours? Bo, who spoke about black consciousness, would he not vomit on the cowardice of your leadership? The ancestors are watching, and their judgment will be unforgiving. I say to you, step aside if you cannot lead with courage. Step aside if you cannot serve your people. Move aside if your heart only beats for money and foreign fame. Africa has no time anymore for men like you. Africa is rising, Ramaphosa, with or without you. And when we rise, we will not rise with cowards. We will rise with lions. Let the people hear me well. It is time to bring down the false gods of politics. It is time to bring out the hypocrites who wear the clothes of revolution but govern like kings and their people suffer. Ramaphosa has unveiled himself as such a man, and the ANC under him has been transformed into nothing but a travesty of betrayal. The youth should not be intimidated. The workers should not be silenced. The poor should not be patient. Enough waiting, enough hoping, enough begging. Rise up and claim what is yours. Demand leaders who fear no one but God, who serve no one but the people, but the African flag. I shall not sugarcoat it. Ramaphosa, you are a disgrace. You prove that economic freedom is meaningless without liberation. You prove that when leaders forget their people, the country perishes. But South Africa will not perish. Africa will not perish. The people shall rise. The young people shall lead. And they shall sweep away the corruption, the cowardice, and the betrayal. Mark my words, the fire that started in Burkina Faso will spread. The fire of resistance, the fire of true independence, the fire of African pride. And when it comes to South Africa, no Ramaphosa, no failing ANC, no foreign master will be in a position to extinguish it. This is not a warning. This is a prophecy. Africa is awake, and those who betray her will receive the wrath of her children. Ramaphosa, your time of pretending is coming to an end. Your mask is falling. And when you do, the whole world will see the coward that you are. Africa's had enough of cowards. Africa needs lions. Africa needs leaders who will die before they betray. Sisters and brothers, let me begin by informing you of this fact. Betrayal is not from your enemy. Betrayal is from the person who walks beside you. The person that carries your hopes. The person promises to fight in your interest and then sells you in the oppressor's market. And that is what my people Cyril Ramaphosa has done. He was handed the torch of the liberation movement, but he did not carry it to the end line of freedom. He used it to ignite foreign corporation cigars. He betrayed the movement. He betrayed his people and he betrayed Africa. What was the liberation movement? In South Africa? It was not just a question of abolishing apartheid through legislation. No. It was abolishing the chains of economic slavery. It was not a question of restoring land to its rightful owners, dignity to the black child, ensuring that those who had been oppressed under apartheid would emerge and live freely, not politically only, but economically. Freedom was not meant to be a flag in the sky and hunger in the belly. Freedom was not meant to be a national anthem sung in the dark because Eskom has fallen. Freedom was to be the regaining of power, wealth, and dignity. But Ramaphosa took another course. He took the way of cowardice, the way of ease, the way of selling his people's heritage to foreign masters. Why? Do you know why? Because he was never a revolutionary. In his heart, he was always a businessman. And what does a businessman look at? Profit, not justice. Contracts, not freedom. Shareholders, not citizens. His ANC became more of a corporation servicing foreign shareholders. Think of the mines. Think of the gold, the platinum, the diamonds. Who do they belong to now? Are they the black South African people who bled and died in Americana, who suffered in Soweto, who lost their children under apartheid? No, still the foreign companies, the same institutions of exploitation with new suits, and Ramaphosa instead of reclamation at their command. He protects their interest. He keeps them secure. He tells them, do not be afraid. I am your man. This is treachery. Do you remember Americana? Do you remember the massacre when workers demanding just wages were gunned down like beasts? Where was Ramaphosa at that time? He was on the corporate, not the workers. He was in the boardrooms, not the mines. He was with the bosses, not the multitude. That instance revealed his real heart. A man who would prefer to protect profit rather than protect lives. A man who has allied himself with the oppressor but whose clothes are donned in the attire of the liberator. And tell me, where is land reform? Where is the promise that the land will be returned to the dispossessed? He talks about it vaguely. He postpones. He commissions. Reports. He promises, but never delivers. Because to deliver land would mean confronting those who still hold him, those who sponsor his campaigns, those whose approval he craves in the West. Ramaphosa will not rise up against them. He bows to them. He negotiates with them. He begs them. He serves them. This is not leadership. This is servitude. And what of the ANC itself? The ANC that once carried the dreams of Africa's oppressed is now nothing but a facade. It wears the clothes of revolution, but its heart is possessed by companies. It sings freedom's anthems while signing contracts of betrayal. And at the head of this hypocrisy is Ramaphosa, the smiling betrayal facilitator. He speaks at world forums boasting about South Africa's open economy. That open economy means open looting, open exploitation, open robbery of the people's resources. Do not be deceived, my people. Ramaphosa is not building a South Africa for South Africans. He is building a South Africa for investors. He is building playground of Western companies who arrive to drill, to extract, to pillage, and to leave with only contaminated earth and broken communities. This is not Mandela's dream. This is not Bo's struggle. This is not Chris Haney's sacrifice. This is betrayal. And there is a cost to be paid for betrayal. The cost is joblessness. The cost is poverty. The cost is people wandering the streets with nowhere to go. The cost is crime that eats away at communities. Price is a nation that bleeds as its leader smiles in foreign capitals. Ramaphosa, you were supposed to finish the struggle. You were supposed to break the shackles. You were supposed to take the liberation struggle to its rightful place. African ownership of African resources. But what you did was sell the ANC's soul. And you turned South Africa into a playground for the very forces the struggle was supposed to oppose. You were not the successor of the struggle. You are its gravedigger. And I say to the people, never forgive betrayal. Never accept it. The struggle is not concluded. It has only been hijacked. The youth must reclaim it. The workers must reclaim it. The poor must reclaim it. Because the liberation struggle is the people's, and not Ramaphosa's, not the ANC's, and certainly not the corporations. Let me show you what I see when I look at the ANC with Ramaphosa. I see a corpse. Yes, a corpse. Now, long ago, the ANC was alive, with the blood of revolution, the fire of sacrifice, the heartbeat of millions who dared to dream of freedom. But now under Ramaphosa it is not a movement anymore. It is a stinking carcass. It still has the garments of struggle. It still utters the songs of liberation. But inside there is only decay, corruption, division, and death. If you touch the body of a dead person, it is cold. That is ANC these days. Cold to the poor's pleas. Cold to the people's hunger. Cold to the pain of the youth. It was once the spear of the nation. Now it is a blunt knife, rusting in the hands of greedy men. It was once feared by oppressors. Now it only makes deals in back rooms. Once it was for the freedom of the African child, today it is for the empowerment of its leaders. Watch the youth of South Africa. What do they get from this ANC? Not jobs, not dignity, not hope. They get unemployment, drugs, crime, and despair. They are the children of freedom, but they live in chains of poverty. And as the youth wander jobless, the ANC leaders cruise in luxury cars, wear designer clothing, and eat at the tables of foreign ambassadors. Is this not betrayal? Is this not decay? Look at the poor. What does the ANC give them? Empty promises. Every election, they are told the same lies. We will deliver jobs. We will deliver housing. And we will deliver land. But the poor continue to live in shacks. The poor continue to drink dirty water. The poor continue to wait for electricity that never arrives. And while the poor struggle, ANC officials become wealthy from corruption, tenders from stolen state coffers, from transactions that line their own pockets, while the nation starves. And see the country itself, South Africa, a nation so endowed with resources, so blessed with possibility, is now in darkness. Eskom fails. The lights go out. Companies go under. Hospitals are struggling. Children can't learn. Do you get the symbolism? A liberation movement that used to cast light on its citizens now keeps it in the dark. Literal darkness. That is the reality of the ANC with Ramaphosa. And do not tell me this is accident. It is not accident. It is the product of corruption, mismanagement, and cowardice. When leaders fight not for the people but for positions. When they don't care for the country but for their group. When they divide among themselves while the people lose. That is not leadership. That is rot. And the ANC is rotting from the inside out. Ramaphosa appears to pretend to be man who will cleanse the ANC. But how does a man who is of the rot clean the rot? How does a man who benefits from corruption fight corruption? How does a man who comes to power on the shoulders of corporate money represent the people? It cannot be done. He speaks of renewal, but renewal cannot be done by a corpse. Renewal requires life. And there is no life left in the ANC. And so, my people, you must face the reality. The ANC of Mandela exists no longer. The ANC of the imagination of Bo exists no longer. What remains is a foul corpse of corruption, of treachery, of cowardice. And a corpse cannot lead the living. The youth must not let this corpse strangle their future. The poor must not let this corpse suffocate their hope. South Africa may not be buried with this corpse of the ANC. It is time to put it to rest and form a new one. I say it again, the ANC with Ramaphosa is a dead body. And Africa has no use for dead bodies. Africa has need only for movements that live, that struggle, that sacrifice, that breathe for the people. South Africa must rise again. Not with this dead ANC, but with a new spirit, a new flame, a new generation, which rejects corruption, rejects division, and rejects defeat. Let us talk truth tonight. Political liberty without economic liberty is a lie. It is a flag without territory. It is an anthem without bread. It is a vote without honor. And that is precisely what South Africa has now. They tell you apartheid has ended. They tell you are free. They tell you reside in a democracy. But ask yourself, who possesses the soil? Who controls the mines? Who operates the banks? Who have the riches? The answer is still the same as it was during apartheid. Not the poor, not the youth, not the people, not the black majority, but a handful of elites and multinational firms. And Ramaphosa protecting this injustice instead of ending it. He's smiling for Western applause while his people choke in poverty. South Africa fought one of the largest struggles of the 20th century. Generations died, sacrificed, and suffered. Not only to bring an end to white rule, but to restore dignity, to reclaim the land, to reclaim the economy. Because true freedom is for nothing if the people are still slaves to poverty. But what has Ramaphosa done with that struggle? He turned it into a business deal. He turned the blood of martyrs into a bargaining tool. Rather than breaking the chains of economic slavery, he polished them and called it democracy. Look at the land question. Decade after decade, the ANC promises land reform. But where is it? The land stays in the hands of a select group. And millions of black South Africans have no land, working on farms they will never own, living in shacks on land that rightfully belongs to them. Ramaphosa speaks of reforming the land but delays it, waters it down, negotiates it until it is gone. He does not have the courage to anger the influential landowners. He is not courageous enough to upset foreign investors. He chooses comfort to the rich over justice to the poor. That's not leadership. That is betrayal. And the mines. Oh, the mines. The earth of South Africa is a treasure chest of gold, platinum, diamonds, and minerals that the world depends on. These resources should be the foundations of African wealth. They should build schools, hospitals, roads, industries, but they enrich a few billionaires and foreign companies while the miners themselves are poor and die in accidents underground. What greater shame is this? That the wealth of the planet trickles out of the country as children of that planet starve. And what does Ramaphosa do? He makes deals with the corporations. He keeps their profits. He invites them to exploit further while his people starve. Do you remember Marikana? Workers who demanded only a living wage were shot down by the state, killed like animals. And what was Ramaphosa's function? He was not with the workers. He was with the corporations. He stood not with the people but with the owners. That is the very essence of Ramaphosa. A servant of capital, and not a servant of the people. Economic freedom is not a luxury. It is the very essence of liberation. Without land, without wealth, without control of the resources, political freedom is a mask, a lie, a shadow. And South Africa lives in that lie today. Ramaphosa is the protector of that lie. He treads stages in Europe and America, applauding hands with those who plunder Africa, and they're clapping for him because he holds the system safe for them. He protects their access to your land, your mines, your wealth. That is why they adore him. That is why they declare he's a statesman. But the people, the poor, the youth, what do they say? They say he is a betrayer. Tell me, what good is the right to vote if you still live in a shack? What is the point of a flag if your children go to bed hungry? What is the point of an anthem if you have no ground to stand on as your own? That is the question South Africa must answer. For without economic freedom, there is no freedom. Without land ownership, mines and wealth, independence is an empty thing. Ramaphosa has left his people to poverty while posing for cameras abroad. He has chosen Western approval at the cost of African dignity. He has preferred foreign investors to his own citizens. He has preferred betrayal to liberation. And history will not forget him. But I say it to the youth, to the poor, to the workers. Don't accept this false freedom. Don't accept democracy without bread. Don't accept liberation without land. Rise and demand what is yours. Because true freedom is not granted, it is seized. And it is time to take back the land, the mines, and the wealth that are the people's. Africa does not tolerate cowards anymore. No tolerance for men who sit in the highest positions of power and serve foreign interests while their own citizens live in despair. No tolerance for leaders who make sweet talks in the open but pour the blood of their ancestors in hiding. Sir Ramaphosa is one such man. He appears naked not only as a weak leader but as a facade of neo-colonialism. A smiling face which hides the exploitation of our people. And I say it to all African viewers. We have had enough. Enough of weakness. Enough of betrayal. Enough of pretending that servitude is confused with leadership. What does it mean to be a coward as a leader? It means you fear confrontation when justice demands it. It means you prioritize comfort over encouragement. It means you appease foreign powers instead of fighting for your people. Ramaphosa has all these traits. He is more intimidated by the West than by the cries of his own countrymen. He is more intimidated by offending the corporations than he is by the collapse of his country. He is more intimidated by offending investors than he is by the collapse of his people's dignity. That is not leadership. That is cowardice. Watch the decisions he has made, or more accurately, the decisions he has avoided. Land reform delayed. Economic independence spurned. ANC corruption indulged. Crime run rampant. Electricity about to fail. Education crumbling. The nation laments leadership. And what does he offer? Smiles for the camera. Oratory for foreign applause. Photopops with influentials. While South Africans suffer poverty and despair, that is the measure of cowardice. Cowardice is contagious. It infests institutions and, under Ramaphosa, the ANC has become a nurseries of fear. Officials are too cowardly to face corruption. Ministers are too cowardly to dispense justice. Policies are too reluctant to alter the life of the people. The people see the rot. The youth see the stagnation. The poor see the neglect and lose hope in the very system that was meant to work for them. A nation cannot rise under leadership that is cowardly. A continent cannot prosper under leaders who bow at the altar of foreign powers. Africa is waking up, and we see it all over the continent. The people are no longer ready to be guided by men who genuflect to the West and smile as their own nations die. The youth are alert. Workers are mobilizing. Communities are calling for accountability. Corrupt elites are being exposed. And the message is loud and clear. We don't need timid men to guide us. We need lions. We need leaders who are brave. Leaders who speak truth to power. Leaders who put people before profit. Ramaphosa cannot hide anymore. His mask is slipping. The people can see. The continent is seeing. And the world should see. He is a servant of neocolonialism, fighting foreign interests in the guise of fighting South Africans. He has become a symbol of all that Africa detests: cowardice, compromise, and treachery. And this is why Africa can no longer tolerate him. The era of weak leadership is over. Excuse-making time is over. Excuse-making time for cowering before foreign nations while your own people go hungry is over. Africa requires courage. Africa requires justice. Africa requires leaders who will die for their people before they sell them for profit. Ramaphosa, you have failed that test. You have failed the continent. You have failed the youth, the workers, the poor, and the dream of our ancestors. And so I say to the people, rise. Rise. And will no longer be guided by cowards. Stand up and demand leaders who are brave, who are unafraid, who are real lions. Demand the hollow words of men who bow to other cats and leave their citizens in the dust. Hold them accountable. Make them see. Cut them out. Because Africa cannot afford to wait for timid leaders to step up to catch up with the dreams of its ton. Africa cannot wait for promises that never get fulfilled. Africa must guide itself by bravery, by power, and by vision. Ramaphosa is not Africa. He is a relict of a failed system, a reminder of what happens when leaders value comfort and foreign approval over their people. But Africa is awake. Africa is alive. And Africa will no longer tolerate Cowardice. The lions of this continent are awakening. And when they roar, no coward will hide. No betrayer will be spared. And no foreign master will dictate our destiny. We are finished with men who betray, men who bow, men who fear. Africa calls for courage. Africa calls for power. Africa calls for freedom. In reality, not title. Ramaphosa, listen to this. Your mask has fallen off. Africa is awakening. And we will not wait for cowards to catch up with the summons of history.